Good morning, students. Today we start with a new chapter of economics, that is sectors of the Indian economy. Well, children, if you look at your screen, you will find a number of pictures showing people engaged in different activities. Some of these are activities which are producing goods and some other are producing the services. Do you know these activities are happening around us every minute? Now the question comes, how do we understand these activities? One way of doing this is to group them or classify them using some criteria. So these groups are called sectors. That is, sectors of the Indian economy are divided into three different categories. That is primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. So to start with the first sector, that is primary sector, is a sector where a large number of activities are undertaken by directly using natural resources. That means when we produce a good by exploiting natural resource, it is an activity of a primary sector. For example, agriculture, dairy, fishing, forestry and so on. So this sector is known as agriculture and related sector. The next sector is the secondary sector. Now the secondary sector covers activities in which natural products are changed into other forms through ways of manufacturing that we associate with industrial activities. For example, using cotton fiber from plants, we spin yarn and weave cloth, or using sugarcane as a raw material, we make sugar or gur, or we convert earth into bricks and use bricks to make houses and building. So, this sector gradually became associated with the different kinds of industries that came up, and it is also called as industrial sector. Now the third sector is the tertiary sector, and in this sector the activities that help in the development of primary and secondary sectors. These activities by themselves do not produce a good, but they are an aid or a support for production purposes. For example, goods that are produced in the primary or secondary sector would need to be transported by trucks or trains and then sold in wholesale and retail shops. Apart from this, under this sector, there are a number of other activities which takes place like transport, storage, communication, banking, trade, then service of a teacher, service of a doctor, a lawyer, or a service of a personal services such as a washerman or a barber or a cobbler or a lawyer and so on. Since these activities they generate services rather than goods, it is also known as service sectors. So all those goods and the services which have been produced in all these three sectors are sum up and they give us the GDP, means adding the sum of all three sectors would give us the GDP, that is gross domestic product. Now children, the question comes that how do we count the various goods and services and know the total production in each sector? Now with so many goods or so many activities or the services, let us say around thousands of goods and services produced, then it becomes impossible to know that how many cars or how many computers or let's say how many nails or furniture have been produced in each sector. Now, and then how to categorize those goods into different sectors. So economists suggested that the values of goods and services should be used rather than adding up the actual number. That means to get around with this problem, economists, they came up with the suggestion that instead of counting the number of the cars or number of the other goods, why not to consider the values of goods and services rather than adding up their actual numbers. For example, let's say a farmer grows a cotton and sells it to a textile industry, let's say worth for rupees 50,000. Means a farmer, he sold raw cotton to a textile industry for rupees 50,000, and that textile industry, they convert that raw cotton into a thread and then to a cloth, and then they make a shirt, add buttons and thread to it, and shirts, around 5,000 shirts are being sold by the textile industry to a retailer, that is to a shopkeeper, let's say for rupees 1 lakh. So children, the final value of shirts is rupees 1 lakh, not rupees 50,000 or the amount which the textile industry might have spent on purchasing of our buttons or let's say the thread or something else. All those values for producing a shirt which is being incurred are actually the intermediate values. Now for producing a final good, there are number of the intermediate goods which are being considered, but to count the value of the final goods, it is not correct to add the value of the intermediate goods, because then we would be counting the value of the same things a number of times. That means intermediate goods are used in producing final goods and services. Means for making a shirt, that raw cotton or let's say a button are actually the intermediate goods which have been used for producing shirt. But shirt is a final good. So the value of final goods already includes the value of the intermediate goods and that are used in making the final goods. That means the value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that particular year. And the sum of production in these three sectors gives us GDP, that is gross domestic product. In India, the GDP is undertaken by central government ministry with the help of the various government departments of all the Indian states and union territories. Thank you.